Okay, so thanks for joining. So today we're going to talk about how to build a budget in 4 easy steps. Step 1, track your income and expenses. This is a crucial step in building your budget. If you don't know where your money's coming in or where it's going out, you're not going to know how to actually budget it for expenses that come up throughout the month. So number 1, track your income. If you have a steady job and you're on salary, then it should be pretty predictable. You get paid every 2 weeks or bi-monthly, so you're going to be able to track on a month-by-month basis how much money you're bringing in. If you're commission-based, then you could take the average of the past 2 or 3 months, take the average of that, and you're going to see your income for the month, and that's going to be considered your monthly income. Then next is going to be your expenses. So there's going to be some different types of expense categories. I'll just go through the list. There's going to be housing, auto and transport, food, utilities, savings, investing, debt repayment, health and wellness, cell phone and wireless service, personal expenses, and childcare. So add all of those up, and that should come out to a nice number where you can have a good balance for each one of those different categories. And then you're going to be able to see how much money you have coming in each month and how much money you have coming out each month. Step number 2, prepare a budget. So the first thing I would say when you're preparing your budget is pay yourself first. And so what this means is that as soon as you get your paycheck or you get your money, you have some type of automated investing or savings going on. And I would recommend saving about 15% of your monthly income. So just whatever you make every 2 weeks or every month, multiply that by 15% and set that aside first before you pay any of your bills. Next is going to be housing expenses. So your housing expenses should be about 30% of your gross income. So whatever you make for your monthly income, you multiply that by 30%, and that's going to be the maximum that you should actually budget for your housing expenses. And the housing expenses are going to include things like your rent or mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and other things like that. Then we go into debt. So this piece will vary by the different individuals, but when you calculate your debt to income ratio, this should be right around 30%. Ideally, it should be a little lower. Creditors like to see this a little lower. So if you actually want to calculate your debt to income ratio, add up all of your credit payments, so things like your monthly debt expenses to credit cards, personal loans, your mortgage payments, your car payment, things like that, and divide that by your gross monthly income to get your debt to income ratio. And like I said, that should be under 30%. Once you have those top 3 budget options down, what you're going to do next is you're going to budget out your other categories. Some of the other categories I talked about were your auto and transport, food, utilities, health and wellness, cell phone, personal expenses, and childcare. So now that you have tracked what's coming in, what's going out each month, and you've also prepared a budget, budgeting it out how much money you should spend on each one of those categories, the next thing you're going to do is actually balance that budget. Simply stated, your monthly income plus your monthly expenses is your budget surplus or deficit for the month. Budget surplus means that you're on the right track. And if you actually have a surplus, you should earmark some of the extra funds for things like savings or investing, or if you have debt payments, increase the payments associated with that debt. If your expenses are actually greater than your income, then you have a deficit, and that means that you are spending more money than you are bringing in, which is bad, which is going to keep you in the cycle of losing money. So what you need to do is look at your categories that you actually budgeted for throughout the month and see where you can actually move money around to see what works best for you. So some small but effective things that may help balance your budget include preparing your meals at home, eating in instead of eating out, and also some of the personal expenses that you have as far as eating out or getting an espresso or a coffee. Those things can be cut out of your budget to make room for things that actually matter, like your housing expenses or your debt payment or your savings and investing. And last but not least, step number 4, can you stick to the budget? So now you should be at the point where you've given each one of your dollars a job, and now you are in charge of your finances. And so throughout the month, I want you to actually track your expenses, every single expense that you have, and make sure that you actually put it into one of those categories that we budgeted for at the beginning of the month. This is so important because if you don't know where your money's going throughout the month, it's going to be hard to account for things that come up that are unexpected. We've created a post over on the financialliteracy.com about an emergency fund. So if things do come up as far as unexpected expenses, you should have an emergency fund for that. But you should never go a month without tracking all of your expenses and making sure you're in the correct category, and making sure not to overspend each one of those budgeted categories. So, in closing, if you can consistently budget a monthly surplus, then you're well on your way to becoming financially fit. So if you guys like the tips, give me a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and also hit the bell for notifications on new posts coming up. And I will be sure to post in the coming days some more topics that we have coming from the financialliteracy.com, our financial literacy blog.